My name is Kathy. 2 years ago, I got married, and I've been living a life respecting my husband Mason's wish to enjoy our time together. Things are going well at work, and as a working mother, I'm living reasonably happily. Mason and I work at the same company. He was a junior colleague. I didn't notice it, but he was handsome and popular. When we decided to marry, everyone was surprised. I joined the company right after high school and have built a respectable position recognized for my work. So I didn't have much yearning for marriage and was often joked about for dedicating too much to my job. But Mason, this popular younger man, pursued me intensely. Though it troubled me due to our superior-subordinate relationship, I had little experience with men and ended up marrying him. Yet marrying someone I loved was a daily joy. The problem was with my in-laws. Right after getting married, my mother-in-law, Serena, was quiet and reserved, hardly speaking. She followed the anachronistic beliefs of my father-in-law, Harrison, who thought women should be modest and devoted to their families. So when I went to the family meeting at my in-laws, Harrison made me uncomfortable.
Seems like these days men are doing housework, but you're working by choice, right?
My choice? Well, as I have been at the company longer and am in a higher position than Mason, earning more, I planned to continue until we had children. But if I explained, it might seem like I was belittling Mason, so I was at a loss for words.
What? You mean you're worried because Mason's salary isn't enough? Managing the household is one of a wife's duties.
Managing the household?
Well, I've never had to trouble my wife with finances.
It's my decision. I felt anything I said would complicate things, so I just agreed. Then Harrison, as if waiting for this moment, began talking triumphantly.
Right. My son is capable enough. Since you're working because you want to, make sure it doesn't interfere with Mason's work or household duties.
He laughed heartily while Serena, diligently making tea so it wouldn't get cold, impressed me with her dedication. However, a year later, Harrison passed away from a heart condition.
Dad, how could this?
His trembling figure at the funeral was painful to see. His passing was sudden and early by today's standards. Mason was deeply grieved and lost his spirit for a while. It's a shame about Harrison's sudden passing.
Yeah, Mom has always followed Dad's words. I'm worried about her being alone.
Mason, concerned for Serena, suggested we move closer. That's true. Seeing Mason so distressed, I couldn't strongly oppose the idea. So we moved from a 30-minute train ride to a 10-minute walk to a new apartment. I thought living close to the mild-mannered Serena wouldn't cause any problems. Mason seemed relieved, so it was better than living together, I thought, and easily agreed. But after a while, Serena, no longer in Harrison's shadow, revealed her true nature. Serena, now that we're close, let me know if you need anything. I said this when I went to greet her after moving, but her response was shocking. What do you mean by anything? Do you think I'm helpless without Mason's father? No, I didn't mean. Or are you glad that noisy Harrison is gone? What a heartless daughter-in-law. Serena got angry over something I never said. She was so loud that Mason, who was in another room, rushed back.
Mom, why are you so upset? It's bad for your health.
Oh, Mason, Kathy was terrible. She said she's glad Dad is gone.
What?
Mason looked at me in disbelief, but of course I immediately shook my head vigorously in denial. Can't say it in front of Mason.
Mom, Kathy wouldn't say something like that. You're tired. Let's rest in the other room.
Mason defended me, but then took Serena to another room. I stood there, unable to do anything, until I got a message from Mason. He said Serena was still upset and asked me to go home first. Feeling helpless, I returned home. Later, after dinner and a bath, Mason came back.
Sorry about today. I know you wouldn't say that. Do you think Mom might have dementia?
I was relieved you believed me. Dementia? Maybe it's just confusion from losing Harrison. I was shocked to suspect dementia in Serena on the day we moved and felt uneasy about our life here. Since that day, my married life began to crumble slowly. Sorry about the other day. Have this, Serena said a few days later, her tone kind as before, bringing me some food. No, it's okay. You've been through a lot. How about some coffee? It's fine. I just stopped by quickly. I'll leave now. I tried to invite her in, but surprisingly, she refused. Exhausted from the unfamiliar commute and neglecting housework, I felt relieved and checked what she brought. The vegetables were wilted, the root vegetables soft and rotting. The snacks were expired or expiring that day. Mason came home late from work, looking a bit grumpy. What's wrong? Bad day at work? Since our marriage, we had been transferred to different departments. My position was unchanged, but Mason had more overtime in his new department.
No, did Mom visit today? She called upset because she couldn't come in, even though she tried so hard with her sore legs.
Irritated, I told Mason the truth while trying to hide my annoyance. I invited her in, but the things she brought were spoiled or expiring.
Why does it always seem the opposite of what she says?
I was exasperated with Mason's indifferent attitude, but didn't want to push too hard, fearing he might suspect dementia again. I dreaded the thought of him wanting to live with Serena, making our lives even harder. We ended the conversation awkwardly, but Serena kept bringing inedible things every few days. Often, she hung them on the door when I wasn't home. Sometimes birds scattered them at the entrance. Cleaning up after a tiring day was just more stress. She would call for long talks, even when I said I was busy at work. After half a year, I adapted, setting up a delivery box for Serena and replying by email instead of phone calls. But then, near the fiscal year's end, I realized I hadn't updated our bank book. It was for a savings account we planned to use for a house or children, automatically funded by my salary. Excited to see the balance, I went to update the bank book. But it only showed the last month's deposit. I hadn't withdrawn anything. Reluctantly, I knew who might have taken it. I went to update the bank book today.
Why?
Why? We should at least talk about it. It's our money, right? I confronted Mason, who came home late from overtime, at 10 p.m. in the living room.
Actually, I found out Dad had debts after the funeral. I was going to talk to you, but with the issues with Mom, it was hard. It was about half.
Half? My savings from before we married should have made it around $40,000. And now only $2,000 from last month is left, even though I contributed more.
Then, more issues came up. Dad said he never let Mom want for anything. But she never got to go buy clothes or anything, so I felt sorry and bought her some. Living on just a survivor's pension is hard.
I'm not angry about helping. I get wanting to help your parents. I'm upset you kept it a secret.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Let's live separately, to talk things over calmly about our future.
I'm sorry.
Leaving a tearful Mason behind, I gathered my packed bags and headed to a business hotel. I disliked Mason giving away money without consulting me, but I couldn't bring myself to divorce him because I loved his kindness. I just needed time to think clearly. After leaving, I lost my appetite and felt unwell, but Mason seemed cheerful when I saw him at work. Strangely, he didn't try to contact me. Instead, I received a call from Serena. Just because you earn a lot, you blame Mason for taking a little. If you want to divorce, just do it quickly. We don't need a stingy wife like you. I was cut off after Serena said her piece, but I couldn't understand why I was being scolded for helping. I tried to tell Mason about Serena's interference, but he didn't answer his phone, even though it was his day off, remembering he once mentioned debt collectors. I worried and went to check on him at home. Just then, I saw Mason entering the house. Mason? But I couldn't bring myself to call out to him. Next to him, smiling, was a beautiful woman, Karen, close enough to look like a loving couple. Moreover, I had seen the woman before. She was the wife of our company's president, Mr. Roger. A kind man, like me in the past, dedicated his life to the company and married late, with a significant age difference with his wife. Why are you here? What's going on? I'm sorry. Serena? Though they had already entered the house, Serena suddenly appeared behind me. I followed her to a nearby cafe, a place filled with memories for us. I have something to apologize for, but it's a harsh truth for you. Do you want to leave as if nothing happened, or hear me out? Serena, speaking differently, seemed like a different person, looking at me with determined eyes. I can't pretend I didn't see anything. As I looked up at Serena, she nodded and told me everything. There must be a fact that he was having an affair. The reality was beyond my simple expectations, so unbelievable that I didn't want to accept it. I never wanted to mistreat you. I've always been controlled by Mason's father. On the day of the funeral, I thought Mason was crying, but when I looked closely, he was smiling, saying he was finally free. Serena had been acting on Mason's instructions since then. She said she couldn't bear it anymore, hoping I would escape. Despite my situation, I chose separation over divorce, showing how much I loved Mason. So she decided to end it, thinking I would call Mason if she said something terrible. She knew about Karen and predicted I wouldn't get through to Mason on the phone and would come to the house. If I hadn't, she had another plan to bring Karen out. Embarrassingly, I had acted just as Serena expected. She told me many things, but the Mason I thought I knew might never have existed. The betrayal and memories of the cafe haunted me. And the memories of the cafe and the story of the betrayal were alternating in my head. After hearing everything, I was more enraged than saddened, vowing never to forgive them. I started preparing to take back my life. Grateful to have a job and financial security, I began by gathering information and stopped the transfer to our joint account for living expenses. Hey, I noticed this month's money wasn't deposited. There are bills to pay. As expected, Mason, who hadn't contacted me until then, called me, sounding embarrassed and presumptuous. Strange, isn't it? Maybe there's a mistake. I have things I want to discuss, including that. You must be in trouble without the money, right? I'm busy this week, but I'll bring it next week. Wow, really? Thanks. I'm looking forward to seeing you. After hanging up the phone, I found myself shedding tears. I've decided this will be the last time I cry over Mason. No more tears from now on. Correct, it's next Saturday. Got it, I'll join you. I reached out to Serena, my lawyer, and others who would stand by me, waiting for the day to come. The day arrived with clear skies. With Serena and my lawyer, I headed to Mason's house, documents in hand. Kathy, it's been a while. Thanks for coming. Mason, opening the door with a warm smile, seemed ready to embrace me, but froze seeing Serena and a stranger. We've heard everything. This person is our lawyer. Let's talk. Ignoring Mason's confusion and hesitation at letting us in, I sat at the dining table where we used to eat together.
What do you mean heard? A lawyer? You want to divorce your beloved me?
Mason approached me, a mix of annoyance and affection in his voice, which made me laugh. It's almost funny, isn't it? Saying you love me without realizing you're being deceived? Mason was taken aback by my laughter, but quickly glared at Serena.
You betrayed your own son?
Betrayed? I took responsibility as a mother. I was shocked to learn you'd been cheating with Karen, even before we married. Using me as a cover and for money? And when Harrison was gone, you made it easier to see Karen by pushing for a separation. Surprisingly clever. Yes, Mason had chosen me because I was older, earned more, and seemed uninterested in romance, thinking I'd be easy to manipulate. I had unknowingly married into his scheme, bearing most living expenses. Mason's salary was mostly his allowance, but we managed without kids, and I thought savings were happening automatically.
Yeah, I was scared by how well it worked. What an easy woman you were.
Realizing he couldn't deny it, Mason brazenly admitted everything, laughing mockingly.
So, you admit to these facts. Our demands are compensation in the divorce proceedings, repayment of embezzled funds, and signing the divorce papers.
But when the lawyer presented our demands, Mason's face turned bright red with anger.
Compensation for the divorce trial? Staying with a boring older woman like you? I gave you the dream of a lifetime.
He sneered those words mockingly. Happiness? Cheating on me? Stealing money? Letting Serena harass me? And taking away my time? Serena had always been tormented by Harrison's character, who was also irresponsible with women. She was trapped in an arranged marriage between families, unable to escape due to the times. After Harrison passed away, Serena thought she'd be free, but Mason started ordering her around, taking over Harrison's role. It seemed he wanted to shift attention to Serena to cover up his own affairs. Mason played the victim, caught between Serena and me, to subtly control me without complaint. With Harrison gone, he wanted more time with Karen. He wasn't ready to divorce me, planning to manipulate just enough to keep me around for my money. Serena was willing to stay silent for an easy life, but seeing me reminded her of her past self, and she realized she couldn't let more victims suffer.
Meddling for no reason. Maybe mom's just delusional, from dementia. Where's the proof?
I was astonished that Mason was still trying to dodge responsibility. Don't worry, we have everything right here, and soon. As I said that, the doorbell rang. Perfect timing. Better go get that. Don't want to be rude.
Who is it? No way.
Glaring at me, Mason hurried to open the door. There stood the company president and Karen. Thank you for your hard work. Sorry to disturb you on your day off. Please come in.
Ah, Kathy, you really helped us out this time. Mason, too. Seems my wife owes you a lot.
The president spoke with a laugh, but his aura was intense, clearly holding back anger. It made sense. After Mason transferred, he was working in a department assisting the president, so he interacted a lot with me since our marriage. And being younger, Mason was quite favored by him. It was a classic case of biting the hand that feeds you. When I revealed that Mason's schemes began even before our marriage, he was genuinely shocked. As we were short on chairs, I, the president, Serena and the lawyer sat at the table, leaving Mason and Karen standing. Mason finally quieted down. I've laid out the evidence you were asking about earlier. While playing the recording of everything Serena knew, I neatly arranged photos of the two dating, detailed financial misuse, and savings records.
Involving Mr. Roger. Dragging her into this?
Everyone seemed puzzled. If the relationship predated our marriage, wasn't I the one more entangled? But Karen's words were even more shocking. "It was my fault. Forgive me. It was my beauty." The lawyer beside us was struggling to hold back laughter. The president, holding his head in disbelief, sighed. "I married you for your free spirit, but I never thought you'd be this foolish. Kathy is the real victim here. Just sign the divorce papers and pay what you owe." The president's calm but authoritative presence was undeniable, befitting of a major company's leader. Mason, unable to say anything further, silently agreed to the divorce terms. "Mr. Roger, regarding the compensation from your wife in the divorce, I prefer it be paid by her, not you." The president, seemingly ready to handle the payment himself, gave an awkward smile. "You really are an amazing woman. I'm terribly sorry. I'll respect your wishes. Let's discuss our issues at home, shall we?" "Us? There's nothing to discuss." "Nothing changes?" "I said before, there won't be a second time. I'm leaving now." "Wait, I can't live without you." "This is the second time you've crossed the line with an employee." The president looked at Mason with pity. To him, Mason might have seemed a young man misled by Karen. As the president made his way to the door, Karen followed, pleading. "Why?" Was Mason thinking they'd be happy together after our divorces? It felt like watching a pathetic love drama, giving me a headache. My goal was accomplished, so I nodded at Serena and the lawyer, and we all stood up from our chairs. "Just so you know, this place is in my name. I've already terminated the lease, so you'll need to leave or sign a new lease by next week to avoid illegal occupation." "What? You're taking my money and now the house? She might lose her job. And now this?" Even then, Mason played the victim, but I was too tired to argue. "It's all the result of your actions. You can find another job, earn money. I don't know about her, but you can never return the precious time you stole from Kathy. You never apologized, but you owe Kathy an apology." Serena delivered this final blow for me. It seemed like she was reminding herself, too. "Serena, it's okay. Just make sure to follow through with what you've decided. Goodbye, Mason." Afterward, I successfully divorced and retrieved all the household items I had bought for the apartment. Not wanting to see Mason again, I made a list and had the lawyer and Serena move everything out. Mason had to move since he couldn't afford the rent and didn't resist much. I didn't want any prolonged involvement, so I had Mason pay the divorce compensation in one lump sum. He had to borrow money to pay it. The president also divorced, and Karen had to borrow money to pay her share of the divorce compensation. The reason for their divorce quickly became known as Mason, and he had to leave the company. Karen, with nowhere to go, is now living with Mason in an old apartment, struggling with debt collectors. Serena also cut ties with Mason completely. She sold her in-laws' house without telling Mason and moved near mine, working in housekeeping using her skills. Whenever we meet, she apologizes first, but I'm grateful to her. If Serena had given up, my situation could have been worse. I'm wary of marriage now, but I hope to find a mutually supportive partner if the chance comes. Until then, I plan to repay the president who helped me by focusing on my career.